I remember the day it all shattered, like glass exploding in my chest. My children's laughter, once so vibrant and full of hope, was replaced by shattered cries. Our beloved dog Max had been ripped from our lives in a reckless flash. It was the neighbors' careless throw, their neglect, that turned our innocence into chaos. They dismissed it all, left it off, as if our grief was nothing more than an inconvenience. I was humiliated, cast aside, told I was overreacting, that my family was fragile, that I'd failed to protect what mattered most. For weeks, I felt broken. Every glance from the neighbor felt like a dagger. The community's whispers echoed in my ears. "She's too emotional," they said. "She's overreacting." I was dismissed, branded as someone too emotional to handle the real world. But deep inside, beneath the shame and heartbreak, a fire was igniting. I refused to be crushed by their scorn. I made a decision. I would leave the shadows of helplessness behind. I would prove that grief could be transformed into strength. I started small, talking to other parents, rallying those who had suffered similar losses. I refused to accept a world where negligence was tolerated. I delved into every regulation, every law, determined to make a change. The struggle was brutal. I faced resistance from the community, from authorities who brushed me off, dismissing my pleas as emotional outbursts. But I persisted. Every late night spent researching, every meeting with officials, every rally, these were my acts of rebellion. I turned my pain into purpose, transforming grief into a movement for stricter pet safety laws. The community watched as I refused to bow, as I stood tall against the tide of apathy. Slowly, the tide turned. Our voice grew louder, unwavering. We galvanized neighbors, teachers, local leaders. We pushed for regulations that would hold negligent neighbors accountable, laws to protect innocent animals and fragile hearts alike. We funded shelters, organized awareness campaigns, and turned grief into a collective force of resilience. And then the moment came, the confrontation I'd envisioned in my darkest nights. It was not driven by anger, but by a fierce, unbreakable resolve. I returned home, not as the broken woman I once was, but as someone forged in fire. I faced them, the neighbor who had torn apart my family's peace, the skeptics who doubted my strength. Standing before them, I felt the weight of everything I'd endured. I saw their surprised faces, the flicker of guilt behind their eyes. I didn't need to raise my voice. My presence was enough. I was no longer the victim. No, I was the survivor, the warrior, the one who had reclaimed her power. I'll turned my grief into a movement, into a legacy that would shield others from the same pain. That day, I realized something profound. True strength isn't born from innocence. It's forged in the crucible of hardship, tempered by relentless purpose. I am unstoppable now, not because I never faltered, but because I refused to stay